Somewhere in the dark and nasty regions, where nobody goes, stands an ancient castle. Deep within this damp and uninviting place lives Burke, the overworked servant of the thing upstairs. But that's nothing compared to the horrors that lurk beneath the trap door, where there's always something down there, in the dark, waiting to come out. Hello everybody, this is Tyler here once again from the Character Workshop, where I'm reusing an intro from a previous episode. Speaking of previous episodes, today I am once again going to be talking about the trapdoor. However, this isn't going to be a normal review like it was in the past. This time, I'm going to be asking a particular question that relates to the trapdoor. Sort of a discussion kind of episode, if you will. So, within the past decade or so, we have had a variety of reboots or art style changes to a variety of classic British animated shows, like Postman Pat, Fireman Sam, Thomas and Friends, Danger Mouse, Bob the Builder. But surprisingly enough, the trapdoor has never had any kind of reboots or revival of any sorts. So today, I'm going to be asking, does the show need a reboot or a revival? And if so, what would I personally like to see in it? So for those of you who never saw my original Trapdoor episode of It Came From England, I'll give you a brief little summary about what the Trapdoor is about before I get into anything else. So the Trapdoor was a stop-motion animated British television show that came out in the mid-80s on ITV, and it was made by both Terry Brain and Charlie Mills, and most of the voice acting in this show was done by Willie Rushton, who voices main characters Burke and Boney, and also voices the thing upstairs, and also voices a little recurring character on the show named Rog. The show had about 2 seasons and 40 episodes, and has since been released on both VHS and DVD, and as of right now, last time I checked, the show is also available on both iTunes and Amazon Prime Video. And to this day, the show has often been considered a cult classic for its use of comedy and a bit of horror. So now let's start discussing ideas relating to what would happen if the Trapdoor ever got any kind of reboot or revival of any sort. So, let's start off with the main thing, of course, animation/art style. Now, as I previously mentioned, the show was done in stop motion, so I'm honestly wondering if they could possibly use stop motion again for this so-called revival or reboot of the show. Now, chances are they probably won't go with that option, as stop motion is a pretty expensive form of animation to make. It's also very time-consuming too. Like, for example, Nick Park, the creator of Wallace and Gromit, it took him 6 years to create the first Wallace and Gromit short, A Grand Day Out. So, in terms of stop motion, it would take quite a while to get, episodes out there. But, let's also talk about time limit as well. So the original show was 5 minutes long for each episode. Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing it go back to being that route. I honestly cannot imagine the show being, 2 or even 4 times longer than 5 minutes, so I think it would make sense to keep the 5-minute format, seeing that there's not so many, main characters to the show. And what do I possibly think about the show if it ever, let's see, gets made in CGI? Good question. So, honestly, that would be kind of tricky to, implement those characters into, CGI. I'm honestly not sure how they're going to do Burke, because Burke was, done completely different compared to some of the other characters on the show. His mouth is actually just a piece of paper that the animators put on his body to make his mouth move, and of course they've made a couple different paper mouths to sort of have Burke say different syllables with each word. So Yeah, really wondering how the show will do in CGI. However, I do think there were some YouTube videos of people, you know, doing their best to, kind of recreate the trapdoor in CGI, and I think there was about two off the top of my head I can think of. I'm sure you can find them on YouTube. Now that we've gotten the animation and art style out of the way, let's talk about characters. So, obviously they gotta include the three main characters themselves, Burke, Boney, and Drut. And then the thing upstairs, who is an unseen character on the show, you never really get to see the character. You always, hear his booming voice, telling Burke what to do. I'm hoping that this so-called revival or reboot will just, keep with that nature and keep the thing upstairs a mystery. So, I would like that. And then in terms of the monsters, now, as you already know about the trapdoor, if you've ever watched the show, every episode pretty much has a different monster come out of the trapdoor to either wreak havoc or just overall be annoying. So, they could definitely do something interesting with that. One of the things I've always loved about the trapdoor was the variety of monsters that they've had on the show. Now, I wouldn't be disappointed if they also reused some monsters from previous episodes of the original series. I mean, they've done that before with, Rog and Bubo and the Red Thing, so they could do that. And very curious to see what they would possibly do if they were to make brand new monsters. There's honestly so many possibilities about what they can do. And if this show is not going to be an entire reboot, if it's not going to, have a completely new storyline, if they're going to continue straight off of what happened in the last episode, I would honestly love to see what would happen to the main characters, because if you guys have seen my original review of the trapdoor, I mentioned how in the finale of the show, Burke, Boney, Drut, and his children all thought that Rog died after fighting the Big Red Thing. However, Rog was later revealed to be alive after the credits, and Burke asked, "Oh, I wonder what happened to the Big Red Thing?" And then Rog's like, don't know. And then the Big Red Thing comes out of nowhere, and that's how the episode ends. Oh man, if it was a revival, I would love to see what would happen. I mean, that would be interesting. Now, some of you out there are probably asking, oh, what if they ever decide to do any new characters for this trapdoor revival / reboots? Honestly, that would be kind of hard to do because, seeing that the show takes place in the dark and nasty regions where nobody goes, I don't know, kind of hard to think of any new ideas for any new recurring characters. And plus, I'm perfectly fine with the main characters we already have, so I don't really think we need more. And like I said before, if they continue the whole 5-minute episode length format, I think, not having a new main character will not be a problem. And plus, we've already had the Fairly OddParents be ruined because they tried to add new main characters to keep the show fresh, so I honestly wouldn't want to see that happen with the trapdoor either. And now on to a very interesting topic, voice actors. Now, as I've already said, Willie Rushton does all the main speaking roles on the show. He voices, like I mentioned before, Burke, Boney, the thing upstairs, Rog, and also did the voice of one monster from one of the episodes called the Splund. So, yeah, seeing that Willie Rushton died around 1996, that's finding a voice actor to, play as those characters would be kind of difficult. Personally, I would love to see, them try to get, just one person to, do those voices. But if not, probably we'll just get some different voice actors to try and, do good impersonations of, Willie Rushton's voices. Who knows? Not really sure if there's any, real-life voice actors that I would, think of right off the bat, so I'm like, yeah, that guy will be a pretty good Burke. I'm honestly not sure, but for those of you guys who do know and have an idea about who you want to see voice the trapdoor characters in a possible revival or reboot, feel free to let me know. And now one last thing that I want to talk about with if the trapdoor ever gets a reboot or a revival. The production company, the TV channel that'll probably be on, and then just anything else really. Now, as of right now, the trapdoor is owned by Universal, under the DreamWorks Classics label. So chances are, if the trapdoor was ever going to come back in some formats, DreamWorks Animation will probably be the production company behind it. And then in terms of TV channel, honestly, it would make a lot of sense for them to, like, you know, air the show on ITV again, like it did, you know, during the original series. And honestly, I'm kind of wondering if this reboot or revival of the Trapdoor will also come to the U.S. as well, because we haven't really had too much of the Trapdoor here in the U.S. Now, I know on Wikipedia it says, oh, you know, in the U.S. it aired on ABC and Nick Jr., and I'm thinking in my head, there hasn't really been any proof that it happened, so I'm not 100% sure if I can believe in that. So, yeah, who knows? And I'm going to predict, if the show does air in the U.S., most likely it'll probably be on Universal Kids, seeing that that's like the only kids channel owned by Universal, and it would make a lot of sense. So, who really knows? That's just my thoughts. I might as well mention this right now. Trapdoor has not officially been confirmed to get any kind of revival or reboot. I'm just saying, like, my thoughts and my ideas about what I would like to see if the show did get any sort of revival or reboot treatment. So if any of you guys out there are fans of the Trapdoor and have any ideas about, like, what you would want to see if the show ever came back, feel free to let me know in the comments below. I'm very interested to hear. And if the Trapdoor ever does come back for a revival or reboots, chances are James A. Williams might do a video complaining about it. Anyways, that's about it for this episode of A Cave from England. If you guys enjoyed it, feel free to give it a like, and hit subscribe if you want to see more episodes of A Cave from England and just mediocre plush content in general. Leave a comment down below letting me know what you think. That is about it. This is Tyler from the Character Workshop, signing out. Next time, I'm finally doing a request. Yeah, that's right, somebody requested me to talk about this, so I'm gonna talk about it in the next episode.
Creepy, crawly, slimy things that stick onto your skin. Horrid beasts with tentacles that want to pull you in. Squirmy worms, slugs, and snails that lie there in a goo. They'll wait down there forever till they get their hands